One of the first ways in which Christians can live missiologically in Rochester, New York, is to join hands in partnership with other churches. As Christine Kim points out in her book, Joining In with the Spirit, Connecting World Church and Local Mission, quote, "The Bible is a multicultural, intercultural, and cross-cultural book. Recognition that the Bible does not speak with one voice, but contains within it intercultural debate, is also highly significant for biblical interpretation." End quote. There is no shortage of churches within Rochester, New York. Our family just moved about 7 days prior to the recording of this podcast from the suburbs of Rochester into the city proper. When I would drive from our apartment in the suburbs to the church where I serve full-time as the director of student ministries, which was also in the suburbs, I would pass no less than 7 churches. And this does not include churches I was near. This was solely churches where I would drive past their parking lots on the ride from our apartment to my own church. In fact, I did some research into the number of churches in the Rochester area. The website churchesin.com listed 209 churches in the Rochester area, and the site Church Angel listed as many as 350. There is clearly no shortage of Bible-believing churches in Rochester. The difficulty in missions, specifically in the context of church missions, is when one church either believes or acts as though they have the market for missions. In the eyes of many, their church is the only one, quote, doing church the right way. We allow denominational, theological, or worship-based differences to draw dividing lines between us. And yet, if mission is, as we said in part 1, seeing where God's Spirit is moving and joining in, or that all mission is God's mission, then no one church can have the market on it. All mission belongs to the Spirit, and we must put aside denominational differences if we are to truly engage, not in our own work, but in the missional work of the Spirit. Among these churches, there exists many different denominations. There are Baptist, Catholic, Episcopal, Lutheran, Orthodox, Pentecostal, Presbyterian, Wesleyan, Methodist, and non-denominational, to name just a few. Although some may view this as a negative, a fragmentation of the unity within the body of Christ, there can actually be many positives about this. As Sundquist notes in his book Understanding Christian Mission, quote, "Secondly, there is also an ecclesial reason to discuss partnership in missiological terms. The breakdown of major confessions and denominations and the rise of independency and local autonomy. Before decolonization, there were a few main players in global missions: major denominations, religious orders, and mission societies. This is no longer true. In the past few decades, the major Western players and the major church councils have greatly decreased in influence and size. They have been replaced by thousands of local societies, indigenous churches, NGOs, and non-Western churches and missions. Christian mission is much harder to grasp, but it is much more active from and to all the corners of the world." End quote. This is vital to taking to heart the concept that all mission is God's mission. When we view these churches as being able to meet the individual needs of their own surrounding area and helping to love their own neighbors, we see other churches less as competition and more as partners. The needs among the neighborhoods in Rochester, New York are as diverse as the people. The needs of the surrounding community of my own church in the suburbs are very different than the needs of the community around a church in the middle of the city. This is why church partnership is so vital in understanding how to live missiologically in Rochester. In our next segment, we will look at a case study of practically living out the idea of church partnership.